Hi, 5th grade, it's Miss Skioka with your flipped math lesson for today, 9-4. Today's objective is I can use a number line to estimate sums and differences of fractions. So let's look at this objective real quick. So I see some keywords in here that tell us what we're going to be doing today. The first one is estimate. So we are finding an approximate answer, not the exact answer. And we're finding the sums and differences. And we know that the sum is the answer to an addition problem. Difference is an answer to a subtraction problem. And then, of course, we're using fractions. Well, how can you estimate the sum of two fractions? Let's take a look at that first. So let's just do the sum of two fractions. There are a few steps that you can use to estimate the sum of two fractions. We're going to use that in this problem. So here's our first problem. Mr. Frisch is welding together two copper pipes to repair a leak. So welding, that means that he's going to use like a blowtorch or something to put two pieces together. Okay, he will use a pipe that is 5/12 foot long and one that is 1/6 of a foot long. About how long will the welded pipes be? So before we attack this problem, let's think about what it's asking us. We need to find out how long the welded pipes will be. And I can tell that I've got two pieces here, so we're going to be using addition to add the pieces together. Our important information is 1/6 and 5/12. So if I made an equation, it would be 1/6 plus 5/12. And we're finding out about how much it will equal. Not exactly, but about, because we are using estimation today. So we're going to estimate 1/6 plus 5/12. Here's the first step. The first step is to replace each fraction with the nearest half or whole. In order to replace the fraction with the nearest half or whole, you're going to have to know where that fraction would fall on a number line between the numbers 0 and 1. So in order to do that, if you're not sure where that fraction would fall, there are some clues that you can use, okay? So the benchmark fractions that you really have to know where they are is 1/4. You really need to know where 1/4 falls on a number line between 0 and 1. 1/2 is an important benchmark number, and 3/4. Okay, if you know those, that's going to help you. But you absolutely have to know that 1/2 is right in the middle of 0 and 1, and that's something you should know by now. Okay, that 1/2 goes right here, right in the middle. Now, so we're going to try to find out first, where would 1/6 be on this number line? Between 0 and 1, where would you put 1/6? Well, you can imagine that between 0 and 1, if you chopped it up into 6 pieces, where would that 1/6 fall? So I'm going to start in the middle here, and I know that this is the middle, that's about a half. So if I were going to chop up this number line between 0 and 1 into 6 portions, halfway would have been 3 portions. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to make 1, 2, 3. Do you see these little areas? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 1/6 would be this one portion right here. So 1/6 falls on the number line about right there. It is less than 1/4. In fact, it is closer to 0 than it is a half, or than it is 3/4, or than it is 1. It's close to 1/4, and also close to 0. Now, how about 5/12? Well, I know that 6/12 is close to 5/12. If I had 6/12, that's the same as half, right? So I know 5/12 is going to be just a little bit less than a half. If I needed to, I could break this down into 12 pieces. If that 5/12 changing it to 6/12 was confusing, I could change this to 12 pieces, and then I could count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I see that 5/12 would go about here on the number line. Okay, so 1/6 would go right here. 5/12 goes here. Okay, so now I know where they are on the number line. That's what you have to do before you can even do step 1. You have to know where it goes on the number line, because you're going to do step 1, you're going to replace each fraction with the nearest half or whole. So you need to, all you're going to have to do is see, is it closer to 0? Is it closer to 1/2? Or is it closer to 1? Okay, well 1/6 is closer to 0 than it is to 1/2 or 1. So we're going to replace that fraction with 0. 5/12 is closer to 1/2. It's really close to 1/2. Okay, so we're going to replace those fractions with our new numbers. 0 for 1/6 and 1/2 for 5/12. Okay, so that was step 1. Just replace it with the nearest half or whole. Step 2. You're going to add to find the estimate. So remember, I changed 1/6 to 0, and I changed 5/12 to 1/2. Okay, and just add those numbers together. 0 plus 1/2, well, that equals 1/2. So my answer is going to be that it's close to 1/2 of a foot. That 1/6 plus 5/12 up here at the top is close to 1/2 of a foot. Okay? And that's all you have to do. You just replace it with the nearest 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, and then add. How can you estimate a difference of two fractions? So we're estimating still, finding the answer that's about the same, and finding the difference. We're using subtraction this time. So similar steps. First, we're going to estimate 15/16 minus 1/8. Replace each fraction with the nearest half or whole. Okay, so first we have 15/16. 15/16, if I had to cut my board up into 16 pieces, I would find out that 15/16 is about right here. Now, I didn't have to cut up my board into 16 pieces to find that out, and here's why. I know that 16/16, if I had a pizza cut into 16 pieces, that would be the denominator. If I cut the pizza into 16 pieces and I ate all 16, I ate the whole pizza. So when the bottom number and the top number, when the numerator and the denominator are both the same, that equals 1. So I was really close to 16/16. I was really close to 1. Okay, so 15/16 is going to be very close to 1. 1/8. If I cut up my board into 8 pieces, I would know that 1/8 is about here. Okay, I didn't have to cut up my board though, because I know that 8/8 equals 1. So if I only have 1/8, I don't even have half of it. Half of that would be 4/8. So I'm less than a half. I'm only 1/8. So I know I am really close to 0. I am very far away from 1. So I'm going to replace 15/16. I'm going to replace that with 1. And I'm going to replace 1/8 with 0. Because this number 1/8 is much closer to 0 than it is to 1/2. And 15/16 is much closer to 1 than it is to any other fraction. Okay, so now I'm going to replace that with 1 minus 0. Now that I have replaced it, I subtract to find the estimate. So 1 minus 0 equals 1, of course. So that means then that 15/16 minus 1/8 is close to 1, or is approximately 1. Now you notice I've been using this little symbol right here. It looks like an equal sign that's curvy. That's a symbol that you can use that means approximately equal to, about equal to. It's a good one to use when you're estimating. It means not exactly equal but close. Okay, we're going to use a number line to tell if each fraction is closest to 0, 1/2, or 1. This time I'm going to take a couple turns, then you're going to take a turn. Okay, so here's the first one, 9/10. All we're going to do is find out where would that go on the number line. Between 0 and 1, where would you put that on the number line? Well, I know that 9/10 is very close to 10/10. Okay, and 10/10 equals 1. So I know that 9/10 is going to be very close to 1. So 9/10 would go about here on the number line. Okay? That's all we're doing for the first problems. Just find out where the fractions would go on the number line. Let's try number 2 together. 2/5. Where would you put that on the number line? Well, let's see here. I know that 2/5, I know that 5/5 equals 1, and if 5/5 equals 1, have 5/5 over here, and that means that I'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections there. 1/5 would be about here, so 2/5 might be about there. Okay, I'm just taking that number line, I'm cutting it into 5 pieces. I can see that 2/5 is pretty close to 1/2. It's not very far. Okay, you try number 3, 1/8. Where would you put 1/8 on the number line? Go ahead and draw a number line and put 1/8 on it. Okay, if you put 1/8 would go right here, right in between 0 and 1/4, you'd be right. In fact, it is exactly in between 1/4 and 0. Okay, 5th grade, so now that we know where to put those fractions on the number line, now we're going to estimate each sum or difference by replacing each fraction with 0, 1/2, or 1. Okay, here's number 4. 9/10 plus 5/6. So just like we practiced at the beginning, 9/10, I'm going to put that on my number line. I know that 10/10 equals 1. 9/10 is just 1/10 less. It's just a little bit less. So I know that 9/10 is going to be really close to 1. So I'm going to go ahead and say that 9/10 is about equal to 1. Okay? And 5/6 is very close to 6/6. If the number on the top and the number on the bottom is the same, the numerator is the same as the denominator, then that equals 1. So 5/6 is just a little bit less, so 5/6 is close to 1. Okay, so it is also here on the number line just a little bit less than 1. So now I'm going to take my new numbers and add them together. And of course 1 plus 1 equals 2. So as I write my answer to my fraction up here, 9/10 plus 5/6 is about equal to 2. Okay, it's not quite equal to 2 because 9/10 is a little less than 10/10, and 5/6 is a little less than 6/6. So each of these fractions are a little bit less than 1. So my answer is going to be just a little bit less than 2. That's a less than sign. I know you can't tell. Sorry. All right, now number 5. 11/12 minus 5/6. Where would you put 11/12 on the number line? Between 0 and 1. Where would it go? Okay, if you said that 11/12 is very close to 12/12 and 12/12 equals 1, then you know that 11/12 is very close to 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that 11/12 is about equal to 1. Okay, and 5/6 is the number we just used. It's very close to 6/6, and 6/6 equals 1. So 5/6 is going to be very close to 1 as well. So 5/6 is about equal to 1. Well, 1 plus 1 equals 2, of course. So I've changed those fractions to 1. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So my answer is that 11/12 minus 5/6, so I have an equal sign there. It's not equal sign, it's about equal. Approximately is approximately 2. Okay, just a little less than 2. Number 6. 2/3 minus 1/8. Okay, so 2/3. What fraction where would you put it on the number line? And what fraction is it closest to? Okay, so this one, for 2/3, I could break this down into 3 sections, 3 equal sections. So this would be 1/3, this would be 2/3. So 2/3 is about right here. So I have to decide, is 2/3 closer to a half or is it closer to a whole? If you still can't decide, you could also draw it like we did in a previous lesson. You could draw what 2/3 would look like. So 2/3, when I do thirds, I make a circle and I put a peace sign in the middle. And then fill in 2/3. Okay, so there's 2/3. And if I had half of a pizza, let's say I cut it right here in half, I can see that this is a half, okay, and this is the portion that's a little bit more than a half. And I'd have to say that 2/3 of this pizza is a little bit closer to 1/2 than it is to being the whole thing. So I'm going to say 2/3 is closer to a half, okay? So 2/3, I'm going to say that is about a half. And then I have 1/8. Where would you put 1/8 on the number line? Well, we're knowing that 8/8 equals 1. 1/8 is just a little portion. And remember we said that 1/8 is if you took a fourth and you cut it in half, that would be 1/8. So it's right here on the number line, much closer to 0. Okay, so I'm going to say that 1/8 is close to 0. It's approximately 0 for estimating. So now I have 1/2 minus 0, which equals 1/2. So 2/3, back to my original fractions, 2/3 minus 1/8 is close to a half. Okay? Try number 7. 5/9 plus 5/6. Okay, so 5/9, if I took the number 9, because this one's kind of tricky, if I took the number 9 and I took 9 and I split it in half to find where that halfway point is between 0 and 9, the halfway point would be 4.5, right? 4.5 ninths would be the same as half, okay? So 5, boy, that's really close to 4.5. So I know that 5/9 is going to be really close to half. That's one way to figure it out. Now I could take my thirds here and I could cut them into thirds to find out where 5/9 would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, a little bit closer there. Okay, so 5/9 would go right there. Okay, there are different ways to find the same answer, and that's fine. And then we're going to add 5/6 to it. So 5/6 is really close to 6/6. I know 6/6 equals 1. So 5/6 is going to be really close to 1. So I'm going to put it right there. And now I'm just going to add them together because my operation is addition. So I've got 1/2 plus 1. That equals 1.5. Okay, so now my fractions, 5/9 plus 5/6, is close to 1.5. Okay, friends, this is our very last problem. Justin says that if the denominator is more than twice the numerator, the fraction can always be replaced with 0. Is he correct? How do you know? Okay, so if the denominator is more than twice means times 2, the numerator, then it can always be replaced with 0. This is a pretty tricky one. Do you think he's correct? How do you know? Okay, so what it's saying is if the numerator is a number and the denominator is 2 times that, well, wait a minute, it says more than twice, so it'd have to be like 2 times plus 1. If you do a fraction like that, will it always be close to 0? Okay, this is your bonus problem. See if you can figure it out. I'll check with you tomorrow. Have a good night. Don't forget to get your homework signed by your parents. Bye.